What's good with the YouTube, man? It's your boy Rojo with the Convicts Perspective, man, and joined today by none other than Gunner from Gunner's Collective in the house.
Bang bang.
And as you can see by the title, man, today we're going to discuss basically what the future holds for these gentlemen and the group as a whole that just got hit in these indictments, and see what we think, our perspective, what these guys have in store and what they're going to face, man. What do you think, Gunner, man, with all this stuff that just happened, man? Is it going to destroy everything? Are they going to regroup? Are they going to continue as they always do?
Um, First word that comes to my mind when I think about the situation is chaos right now. It's probably chaotic, but they're not looking at it that way. Traditionally, if you know anything about the Nuestra Familia, you know that they always bubble back, they always bounce back. They always have contingency plans set in place for indictments. When you're living that part of the life, you know that you got to roll with the punches. This is going to come with it. At the end of the rainbow ain't a pot of gold. At the end of the rainbow is some feds waiting with some handcuffs. So they knew this was coming, not the particular day, but they knew it was coming. So what I'm thinking, just my perspective on it is, it's business as usual. Now, do I think that we're going to figure it out as we go along with where they're going to be housed, whether it's going to be these federal penitentiaries like ADX, where you have the federal faction functioning, or are they going to be housed alone and kept separate? That's to be determined depending on who falls off, what gets told, what administration wants to do at the end of the day. It's all upon administration and what gets told to them. But as far as the group as a whole, I think it's I mean, business as usual, man. Program time, roll those mattresses up and keep it going. There's no room for any more mistakes. There's no room for any show of what would I say? Not show a face, They have an image to uphold, man. They have certain standards that they live by and that they're basically religious to, man, that constitution and their ways and their philosophies. So to do anything quite contrary to that, man, would be not beneficial to their cause.
You know what? I've seen a lot of comments and suggestions and things of that nature with input from the subscribers, and some people have mentioned that they're probably going to do a deal where they can stay in the state. Now, check this out. There is no deals.
Mhm.
You know, in this lifestyle and that lifestyle, however you want to look at it, man, you cannot make any kind of deals with any kind of. There'll be no type of dealings with the K9 or enemy, right? That's one of the main rules. You learn when you first come to start kicking it with the homies, man. So deals of that nature, while yeah, they might be like, okay, well, we're gonna stay in the state and continue doing what we're doing. As soon as you make a deal, any sort of thing like that, your own people in either faction are going to
Mhm.
deem you.
Oh yeah.
You either got to take it to trial, which is almost 99% of the time always encouraged, or you have to make a deal to a plea bargain where you're not giving up nothing and you're receiving the best time you could
Mhm.
possibly get. Like if the minimum's 15, maybe you'd be like, okay, instead of going to trial, I'll take 15. But to be like, hey, if we do this, can we stay in the state? Automatically you become no good.
It's a
You're a
PC move.
snitch.
It's a PC move.
That's telling.
Yeah.
Even whether you give up information or not, bro, things like that aren't going to be accepted by the
Mhm.
group as a whole, and you're going to be deemed. So like all these guys that just left the state, and they're in Atwater and they end up going to this trial eventually, the people in the state will automatically deem them if they make this kind of deal, even though it's beneficial to the state's cause. It goes against the rules of being a person in this organization.
Absolutely. I agree.
So yeah, I mean, comments like that. I've also seen stuff like they're gonna house them with the federal branch of the homies from down the way. Now that is a possibility.
Mhm.
Would they be deemed? Not necessarily, because right now, with the infighting and the two different factions, that would be looked at, you know, as, man, it would almost, I would think, as far as the people in the state go that are loyal to the state's agenda, that would be deemed acceptable.
Yeah.
Because right now, being that it's the end of hostilities in the state, I would see them trying to further that on a federal level. Now, don't get me wrong. This is all weird stuff, and you guys might think, I'm talking out of my ass, but I'm not. What it is they already got all kinds of dealings and agreements and stuff in place in the state with the other gentleman from down the way. That there's no denying that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? People have tried to deny it long enough when we put out the security blanket video and whatever other videos we put out where you guys are like, you're out of your mind. And guess what? They've proven to be true.
Indeed.
So these are weird times. That could be accepted. However, taking any kind of deal to stay in the state, it wouldn't be. That would not be. But working things out with, say, the big homies from down south to be able to program on them yards and continue, to try to bring what's going on in the state into the feds, that would be viewed as acceptable more than likely, at least amongst the state's faction.
Yeah.
And they're not going to care what the feds say because they're already at ends anyway, and they've already deemed each other. Right now, in theory, there is no member of this group that is in good standings.
Yeah.
One side's deemed by one side's deemed by the other. So there's not a single person involved in this group that isn't deemed right now.
Yeah.
As odd as that may sound. Is that about what you get out of this too, or
100,
what?
100, how would they say it? 114% correct.
I'm going 113.
Yeah, well, me too, at the end of the day. But what I would say is, he's absolutely right. The federal side has deemed the state faction no good, treasonous for their reasons. And the flip side, the state has deemed the federal side. And that's where it all gets mixed up. And that's where the norteños, being the soldados of both these factions, are in flux. Who are you loyal to? Doesn't matter who you're loyal to. Nobody is deemed good. Now at the end of the day, we're not saying these guys' characters are not good and solid. And man, there's a lot of these guys that, man, if a cop asks him his name, he won't even tell him how to spell it, right? And that's the majority of these individuals. But at the same time, man, with all this infighting going on, man, it's got to play out to, there has to be one at the end of the day. And what would be most beneficial to the state is, like I suggested on my channel, would be doing some type of anti-hostilities with the federal branch of the MA. And that's just based on, you got to look at it from the inside looking out, not the outside looking in. If you're sitting in that cell, man, and it's you, and you've been doing this anti-hostilities, man, and you've met some of these camaradas on the other side and some of these big homies, man, and you developed a relationship, some type of rapport, whether it be business or just friends, mutual friendship, over doing time in the shoes and then hitting these yards together, the anti-hostilities, and coming to some type of terms, understanding that they're men just like you. Why not keep it going on the federal side? That's this agenda that and it furthers their cause. It furthers their gospel. They're able to hit these yards, maintain, establish, their security is intact, and they're able to spread their gospel, right? Whereas if you do it by the federal thinking, the federal faction thinking, none of that is going to happen. None of that is going to take precedent over anything that the Constitution doesn't say. But then at the same time, you just said something that's meaningful when you said that there will be no fraternizing or dealings with the canine or the enemy. Well, what's been going on with this anti-hostilities? Because the enemy was considered the lifelong enemy of the NF, yet they've had dealings. So it's just like, if you go by the Constitution totally, man, who's in the right and who's in the wrong, that's open for interpretation in these days, in these times.
And I'm going to tell you guys one thing where you may not understand, or you may have overlooked in the history, is like, even things such as the Pelican Bay door policy that was established, that is a dealing with the enemy. Absolutely. Now, you'll have some people that say, oh, this is one thing, this is another. It's very specific. There will be no dealings with the canine or enemy.
Yeah.
Now, when you establish a door policy, that's a dealing. I don't care what anyone says about it. You guys know you can't debate that with me because it's facts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that was a dealing. Now, what it seems like at times is, and this is the truth throughout history, is rules are enforced or adhered to when it's convenient. Mm-hmm. When it's convenient to bargain, that is also convenient. So nothing is ever seems to be written in stone. There's always going to be plan A, plan B, plan C, things like that.
Loopholes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
When things are going to be enforced in a way that's most beneficial at the time. So if the door policy was deemed to be beneficial and they're like, hey, the administration's setting us up, that's still a dealing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still a dealing.
That is still a dealing. The end of hostilities, that's a dealing. You've sat down and you've made agreements with somebody considered, an adversary, and you've come to a common understanding that this is what we're going to do moving forward. What is that, you guys? It's a dealing.
Yeah, you worked out some type of deal.
So man, this is going back a long time. This is going back to the 60s. You know what I mean? And things are gonna time is gonna change. Different presentation things are gonna present different challenges, and you have to deal with them accordingly. Is it always within the rule book? No, but you can't follow a rule book play by play. The coach sends in a damn play from the sideline. The quarterback sees, hey, this plan isn't going to work, so I'm going to audible. There's audibles going on, and is it necessarily wrong? According to the rules, maybe, but is it necessary to accomplish for the greater good? Of course it is.
Yeah, well, when you have a whole bunch of rule breakers, you can't expect them to follow the rules at all times. At the same time, some of those rules become beneficial to your cause and some aren't. Like I said, there's open room for interpretation in a lot of the Constitution and a lot of the bonds in certain situations. People are going to grasp it and utilize it put their spin on. They're going to kind of U-turn on it, put their spin on it, double back on it, and utilize the certain words that they need to benefit what they got going on at that particular amount of time. Just like what you said with the door policy, that was beneficial to not only the North and the South or the big homies. It was beneficial to all different group factions that were in that shoe, because at the time the K9 were murdering people. They were shooting them unjustly, and these guys looked at it, man, as basically us against them. Okay, and then when you had this anti-hostility, same thing. Guys were kept back in these dungeons, man, for decades. And they felt that for no other reason. The only way that they were able to get out of this is if one group segment tried to do it, man. You're not going to win. The administration, everyone had to come together as a whole, and they did. They come to some type of terms that was dealings. They got out. You know how that worked out, and they kept it going. They seen a good thing, and they kept it going. And that leads me to believe and go back to, is this the end? The title of this video. I don't see it as the end. Reason I don't see it as the end is, why not? If you went through all that and you made all these amendments and all these audibles, why not keep making audibles and keep doing what you were doing? It's same world, man, different fences,
Yeah, and it actually is, at least as far as the state's concerned. I mean, if you look at it with say you have no horse in the race and you're just looking at it from a common sense perspective about life, has it improved everything for everyone involved? The end of hostilities? Of course it has. Is it against the rules? Of course it is. And you just got to decide, or they have to decide, what's the greater good? Is the greater good, totally exonerating everybody and having them stuck in these shoes? A constant threat of, gang warfare, riots, etc. Or is it better to be out there, be able to wiggle, be able to accomplish more, be able to spread your gospel more? Because it's hard to spread anything in them shoes. I was back there, like I've told you guys before, just a letter from the streets from somebody, just your parents, who've never been in trouble. Sometimes it take a month to get them, 3 weeks. If you got one in 15 days, you were like, wow, this one went through fast. So imagine, the communication, being totally exonerated, cut back. Now these guys are getting contact visits. They're getting, they have access to way better communication. They can move around. They're not just sitting in a damn room for 23 hours every day. So while in theory, well, it's not in theory, it's facts. While it goes against the rules of what's happening,
it's beneficial.
Is it beneficial? I mean, that's something they got to figure out, man, because I don't want to sit in the shoe personally, and I'm of sound mind, and I'm sure, some of them guys been in there since Pelican Bay opened, and they were slammed in AdSegs before that. They got out there, and it was almost like going home for them. You're stuck way in Pelican Bay. Think about the guys from down the way. There are people live in LA, San Diego, IE, Orange County. To go up there to visit behind glass for what, for half hour, man, that kills you, bro. That kills you financially. Man, the drive, I mean, me and Gunner just drove from down south yesterday. That's a hell of a drive, bro. And if we were only if we were driving from there to only go see somebody for an hour and then having to turn around, spend money on gas, motel rooms, food, man, Gunner spent a lot of money on that little trip, bro.
That'd be hard. I mean? That'd be hard to do over and over again, especially when you have some of these relationships where these men want to see their old lady a couple times a month. It's just it's a lot of wear and tear and strain on their relationships, and a lot of wear and tear and strain on your mentality. Your what's going on in your mind. Worried about what's she doing out there, and she's worried about if you're okay in there. It's just a bad situation. So I can see where this end of hostilities in this man is being utilized for the beneficial benefit of a man, right? But at the same time, man, just like a lot of people will say in the DMs, man, when you sign up for this life, you know what it entails and you know what you got coming, right? And that's where I go back to, okay, well, signing up for this life, man, you're not told that you're going to be locked up forever. You're told, man, it's for the benefit of the cause and for the benefit of the people forever forward to strive, right? And you can't do that if you're in a shoe. There's no striving. You're just waking up every morning, rolling that mattress, doing some burpees, and going back to sleep, and it's just continuous every day. You're not beneficial for the cause whatsoever. Um, the only ones that are beneficial for the cause are the soldados that are out there in the yard maintaining and establishing. But at the end of the day, man, what does that really do either? The real ones are the ones that are out here on the streets working for their families, man, bettering their people. You know, but that's just me. Um, but do I think it's going to end the NF? Absolutely not. Organizations like this don't end. Just like you take La Cosa Nostra, people say, oh, they fell off, they're a dying breed. Quietly as it's kept, they're just in the shadows now with everything that happened with Sammy the Bull, with Gotti, with all those individuals being in the limelight. They flew right back under the radar. But they're established, man. Do we speak on them too much? Not really. Their organization is so clandestine right now. You don't even know who's who, what's what. And that's what I think is going to happen with the NF, where they're just going to go back under the radar, do their thing, stay out of this limelight, because this end of hostilities and this friction between the Fed and the state factions is what's brought them in the spotlight. Because quite contrary to what people believe, in the 80s and the 90s, it was taboo to even say the word NF. You didn't even really hear about the Nuestra Familia too much, unless you were in that lifestyle and you knew. Um, and now it's becoming mainstream. I say on my channel, it's becoming mainstream, where it's okay, where people are just talking about it, everyone's up on it. It's in the newspapers because these federal indictments are so on and so forth. At the end of the day, man, that's not what they want. They want to quietly just get their issue on, their social status of equality, and move forward. And I think that's what's going to happen here, and we'll find out. At the end of the day, we'll find out, man. The ones that are really holding out is this federal faction, man, where they're stuck in their ways. You got to understand, they're old school now. And when you're old and you've been down this long, you believe in certain policies and certain things, and they're going to adhere to that. But somewhere along the line, I think smarter heads will prevail, where they might even, take a look at maybe open some talks or something.
Yeah, the only way that things are going to continue how they have been for the last, I don't know how many years now that the state federal thing's been going on. It's been a long time. They got to reach a common understanding, or they're just going to keep. You got enough obstacles in your way when you're in these groups. It's real. It's with the technology nowadays and how much money they have to investigate, and just as quick as information moves nowadays, it is really hard to be able to maintain an organization that is
Very.
somewhat criminal in nature.
Mhm.
They have too many resources to throw at you. They have better technology than you. They have the aid of people folding. They have incentives to offer people to fold.
Mhm.
You know, it's it's a real it's almost
No win situation.
exactly. At the end of the day, you're gonna do good for a long time, maybe a short time, but it's gonna come crashing down in the end because they hold better cards.
Yeah.
They just do, man. And it's no knock against any group, man. White boys, anybody.
Yeah.
There's no
Nothing you could do.
there's no particular group that we put down at all.
Yeah.
We don't care. But what it is any of these groups that have, criminal tendencies, they're coming after
They're gonna get you.
and they have everything they have is to their advantage. I mean, there's no denying it. You guys can try to do coded this or coded that. They got
Your
they're
own
gonna
people
they're
tell.
gonna figure it out, man. Somebody's gonna tell, somebody's gonna do this. And it's just a stacked deck, so you get into this lifestyle, and you can't let yourself think that you're going to be the one that's successful, because you're going to fail at some point in time. And this is the positive lesson of the day, as we always try to do. If you stay away from that, you don't got to worry about nobody telling on you. You don't got to worry about the feds breaking some codes, because you don't need to write codes, because you can communicate freely, because you're not talking about criminal activity.
No eyes are on you.
And you're not going to get life in prison. You're not going to be on nobody's bad news list where you got to watch your back everywhere you go, or move you and your family. You don't got to go through all that, man. Get out there, do what 95% of other people in this society do and earn an honest living. You know what I mean? You can be a G, bro, without being in a gang. You know, a G is a lifestyle. It doesn't necessarily, it's not limited to any aspect of life. And it's all about how you conduct yourself and handling your business as a man, you know, and not to take nothing away from these groups, man, you know, not at all. But it's a very, very stacked deck against your favor. And we're talking about 99-1. I mean, if you were playing, would you play Russian roulette with them odds? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? If there's 99 bullets in a big old cylinder, are you going to be willing to think that you're going to be that 1% that doesn't get shot in the damn head? No. So this shouldn't be any different.
Yeah, there's a difference between gangsters and gang members. Big difference, you know. And when you're functioning under someone and you're adhering to the rules and regulations, then you're simply a soldado, a gang member, you know. And I'm not promoting to stray away or poisonous intentions or none of that. I'm just saying, man, know what you sign up for. You know what you sign up for, and roll with them punches because they're coming. You people say I've met a lot of people that, man, I was doing it for a long time, you know, before they came and got me. That whole time they could have came and got you. They gave you that time. You understand the
To
reason?
hang yourself
Yeah,
more.
yeah, they gave you that time to hang yourself. You understand the feds will watch you 5, 10, 15 years. When they come get you, they got you. There is no escape. Just like that's why a lot of these individuals, people are like, oh, well, maybe they could take deals. This there is no deals offered. There is no none of that. The only people that are going to get deals are going to be people that are telling, right? And even their deals are not going to come without time. You know, there's the feds don't do them type of deals. You know, you have to be Sammy the Bull, and even he did time. Nobody is gonna get away with nothing. You are not gonna get out of this. It is what it is. At the end of the day, all that matters now is where these guys are gonna be housed, what's gonna happen with this federal state faction, how the NF continues on from here. Is it the end or will they still wiggle? And I honestly believe, from my perspective, like I said, the beat goes on. Um, Now the big question is, right now you have these state guys that are caught up in Atwater and they're being housed in the transitional housing unit, basically a SHU unit. Then you have the federal faction where the majority of these guys are being housed in the ADX or penitentiaries around the state, the country. But they're all in close proximity to each other, so the communication is real. And then you have these state guys that have been left in charge here in California. And we can't really tell you the intricacies of what's going on right there right now at this time. Of course, we will in the coming weeks. But that's where it's going to be influx. That's where we're going to see, because it could happen all over again, man. Just like when the generals got caught up the first time in the Black Widow operation and they were considered incommunicado, and that's where this all started. And then DC Chuco and as well as Rabbit stepped up and assumed these roles, assumed this position, as was rightfully so. You know, whether you believe or not that they had they were up to par, they did it. You know, and that's what it was. It was established, and that's how it went. And of course, the old generals, we all know the story, man. They weren't feeling that. You know, they felt that this was still their positions, and they upheld that position. They're to be respected, but not to be acknowledged as the generals anymore. Basically, put in retirement status by the state until they refused that, and then they started deeming each other. But now you have another group, which is the state that are being left behind in control of the state of California. And if they want to adhere to those same rules and regulations and say the same things going on with that water, that they're incommunicado, because right now they're in cells, man, with no TVs, no cell phones, I'm sure, basically isolated and housed alone, you know. I know that for a fact. They're considered incommunicado, you know. So if these guys want to push up, guys like Pelucas and whoever's still left in the state that have any type of water, guys in high desert or whatever, then they could push that same agenda. So it could just keep going round and round we go. We'll find out. And this state faction, maybe this new state faction, will come to some type of understanding with the federal faction. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Whereas these guys were just considered rogue banditos, and I'm not saying that they are. I'm not saying that's what they'll be considered. You know, I'm just telling you from experience, they'll be considered 3 rogue banditos to be eradicated, and the federal faction will, of course, get back in the fold with the state faction, and that's how that'll go. And that's a big possibility when it comes to that I think is probably going to happen more than likely, whereas these guys are going to be considered tyrants, rogues, and will be housed on these yards with these Emmet guys and the Emmet guys will see that they utilize them and that they're indisposable and no longer indisposable, and then that'll be that for them. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah, I was just waiting for you to finish, and that's the point I was going to bring up, man, because You know, people are going to come to realization that if they're in this lifestyle, you know, in the state right now, you know, the people who took the reins, you know, after this last indictment, they're going to realize, hey, we're going to end up in the feds one day,
Again,
you know, pushing the agenda. Do we want to end up there and have our careers be over, or do we want to come to an understanding with these guys and try to figure something out, present our points, let them present theirs, see if we can find, you know, some mid ground to, you know, reestablish positive lines of communication instead of deem, traitor, you know,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. But there's going to be some changes, no
Definitely.
doubt, you know, and it could be just as small as like Gunnar was saying, you know, these new guys in the state this could be a whole nother Black Widow thing again, where they could be like, you know, we're changing this, changing that. Now that you're gone, we're in charge. This is our show. There could be a lot of, you know, people who are supporting the feds the whole time in their mind,
Mhm.
but they just have to fall in suit for their own personal protection. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's going to be some stuff that goes on, man, and it's all going to be revealed real soon. You know what I mean? It won't take long.
No.
You know, especially nowadays. But I guess that about covers it, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate Gunnar for joining us as always.
Bang bang.
And we'll be back at you soon with any new developments or whatnot as far as all this stuff goes. It's been pretty quiet since it happened, but I do have some things I'm working on that are crazy.
Definitely.
But I need the whole package before I determine its full worth. You feel me? But all right, you guys, man. Me and Gunnar will probably go live here in a little bit, man. So stay tuned. Much love, much respect, and have a good rest of your Tuesday.
Bang bang.